The scream tore through the commas, jagged and raw, cutting across the void like a knife against silence. Dr. Mara Chen said, "Hold the line, stay with me." But her voice faltered, her breathing ragged. Static swallowed the reply, a sudden gasp hanging in the channel before silence pressed in. Commander Evan Brooks slammed his gloved fist into the console, sparks crackling around him as he growled. "We lost him, damn it, we lost him." The ship groaned, metal straining against the abyss, alarms flashing crimson across the control deck. Kale Ilian sat unnervingly still, his pale eyes reflecting the blood-red glow as he whispered, "Not an accident." The words slithered into the room like poison. Mara's heart raced, the memory of her daughter's last message flashing through her mind. Laughter, hope, a promise she might never keep. Evan reached for the commas, his hand trembling. "Base, this is Peregrine. Report compromised, crew down." But his words fractured, the signal choking in static. Then came a whisper, faint and broken. Not from Earth, not from their missing crewmate, but from somewhere else in the black. "You shouldn't have come here." The cockpit smelled of metal and burnt circuits, the silence heavier than gravity. Mara said, "Check oxygen reserves," her voice sharp but quivering. Evan's hands raced over controls, muttering, "We're bleeding air fast." Kale leaned back, his calm cutting through the panic. He said, "It isn't the ship failing, it's us." The words stung more than alarms. Mara's mind wandered to Earth, to the last meal she never finished with her daughter, and her throat tightened. She whispered, "Not now, not like this." Evan's frustration snapped, "Focus, damn it, we're not dying out here." Yet even as he fought the console, the static returned, a low hiss twisting into something like a whisper. Mara froze, her pulse hammering. She asked, "Did you hear that?" But Evan shook his head, his eyes fixed on gauges spiraling downward. Only Kale tilted his head, as though listening to something none of them could truly hear. The ship creaked, vibrations rattling tools across the deck. Evan cursed, "Stabilizers won't respond," sweat dripping down his temple. Mara steadied her trembling hands, whispering calculations she barely trusted. Kale's voice slipped through like ice, someone tampered with the system. Evan spun toward him, fire in his eyes. "Are you accusing me?" he barked, fists tightening. Mara forced her voice to hold. "Stop it. We don't have time for paranoia." But her heart betrayed her words, pounding at the thought he might be right. The hum of failing engines deepened, echoing like a growl in the hull. Then, faint across the static, came a half-formed word, a voice they should not have heard. Mara whispered, "That's impossible," and for the first time, Kale smiled. Darkness swept through, as lights flickered, the cockpit plunging into shadow before emergency power kicked in. Mara gasped, systems failing. Evan gritted his teeth, "I can bypass if commas hold." Kale murmured, "But who cut them in the first place?" The words made Mara's blood run cold. She recalled the sound before the silence, that scream. It replayed in her mind like an echo refusing to fade. She pressed fingers to her visor, whispering, "Please, no more." Evan slammed tools onto the console, sparks snapping. "We'll fix this. I'll fix this." But even his strength felt brittle. The static grew louder, warping into fragmented syllables, like someone trying to speak through broken glass. Kale tilted his head, voice low. "They're not gone." The ship shuddered violently, Mara thrown against her seat restraints as alarms blared again. She cried out, hull stress rising. Evan cursed, hands flying across panels, every key press a desperate strike. Kale whispered something too soft to catch, his lips forming words Mara could not bear to read. A cold silence pressed into her chest, heavier than the shuddering walls. Mara thought of her daughter's voice, warm and innocent, so far away now. She whispered, "I can't lose them all, not again." Evan shot her a glance, voice hard. "You'll hold, Commander. We all will." But even as he said it, a loud crack split the air, a panel tearing loose, smoke flooding the room. Mara's scream joined the alarms as Kale finally spoke clearly. It's only beginning. The silence pressed in after the chaos, leaving only the hum of weakened systems. Mara Chen floated near the viewport, staring at Earth's distant curve, her chest tight. She whispered, so close, yet unreachable. Evan Brooks steadied himself at the console, his voice sharp. We'll bring this bird home, Mara. We always do. But even his words carried a weight of doubt. Kale Ilian sat motionless, eyes reflecting starlight, his calm unsettling. Mara pressed her forehead against the glass, the memory of her daughter's last smile igniting a burn in her throat. She remembered the child saying, "You'll come back, right?" Mara blinked, moisture fogging her visor. Evan caught her expression and softened. "She'll see you again, Chen. Don't let this place take that from you." Yet Mara could not shake the feeling that the void had already taken too much, leaving only ghosts and promises breaking under pressure. The hum of life support wavered, its pulse like a fragile heartbeat. Evan muttered, filters clogged again, frustration heavy in his tone. He clawed at panels, tools clinking, sweat tracing down his temple. Mara steadied herself, whispering, "You always fix things, Evan. You always have." Her words cracked, more plea than praise. Evan paused, eyes locking on her, voice softer, "And you always carry the weight. You don't have to." Kale's gaze lingered, his voice cutting through. "Strength doesn't save you out here. Secrets decide who lives." Mara stiffened, her pulse quickening. She forced her voice steady. "We're a crew. We hold each other together." But deep in her chest, she felt the fracture widening, like a bone already broken. Mara's wrist screen flickered, a delayed transmission playing. Her daughter's face lit up the dim cockpit, young voice bright. "Mom, I'm counting the days. Don't forget my birthday this time." Mara's breath caught, her hand trembling. She whispered, "Never again, I swear." Evan looked away, jaw tightening, giving her space. Kale's lips curled faintly, not a smile but something sharper. "Promises mean nothing if you never return." Mara's glare met his, fire behind her grief. She said, "You don't understand what's at stake." Kale leaned in slightly, his voice low. "I understand more than you think. Sacrifice always costs more than you expect." The recording froze mid-laugh, her daughter's face pixelated haunting. The cockpit dimmed further, the ship conserving failing power. Evan muttered, "We're running on scraps," his voice heavy. Mara pulled herself upright, wiping her visor clear. "We'll make it," she said, though her words felt hollow. Kale's eyes narrowed, his voice low. "You cling to hope like it's air, but air runs out." Evan snapped, "Enough, Kale. She's the reason we're still fighting." Mara's pulse quickened, her guilt gnawing. She remembered her last fight on Earth, her daughter's tears, her own voice breaking as she left. "I'll be back," she had said. Yet even then, doubt had lingered. The silence of the ship now made that doubt roar. The faint sound of Earth's transmission bled through static, a cold bureaucratic voice. "Peregrine, confirm status." Evan grabbed commas, voice cracking. "We're compromised, repeat, compromised." Mara's chest clenched hearing the agency's sterile tone. "Maintain protocol, Peregrine," the voice ordered, void of empathy. Mara muttered, "Protocol doesn't save lives." Kale leaned closer to the commas, whispering, "They don't care if we come back." Evan's grip tightened, rage flaring. "We're not numbers, we're people." Mara's heart burned at the hollowness of Earth's command. She whispered to herself, "Not for them, for her," and held her daughter's frozen image close. The ship drifted in oppressive silence, its lights flickering weakly like fading stars. Mara Chen clutched the railing, her voice tight. "Every system we patch breaks again." Evan Brooks slammed the console. "This isn't failure, it's sabotage." Kale Ilian's eyes glowed under the dim light, his tone calm. "You assume betrayal because you fear the truth." Mara snapped, Truth doesn't kill stabilizers, Kale. The oxygen gauge dipped lower, each second stealing breath. Evan growled, "We're trapped in a coffin with someone pulling nails." Mara's voice shook with dread. "We can't survive distrust." Yet her pulse betrayed her, pounding with the certainty that trust was already broken. Outside, the void waited, merciless and still. The hum of failing engines deepened, rattling loose bolts. Evan's voice shook. "If stabilizers collapse, we spin until hull rips apart." Mara whispered, "Then keep them alive." Kale's voice cut sharp. "Alive for what? Earth won't save us." Evan's fury ignited. "You sound like you knew this would happen." Kale leaned forward, calm, cold. "Some of us expected it." Mara's breath caught, her eyes narrowing. "What did you just say?" The cockpit trembled, red alarms glowing like veins in steel. Evan shoved Kale, fury spilling into violence. "If you're hiding something, you'll speak now." Kale didn't fight back, his stillness more terrifying than resistance. Mara wedged herself between them, shouting, "Stop! Fighting kills us faster than the void." Evan's chest heaved, fists trembling. He knows more than he admits. Kale's icy gaze never wavered. "Belief in lies will kill you first." Mara's throat tightened, memory of her daughter's voice echoing. "We left Earth for hope, not for madness." Evan slammed his fist into the wall, metal clanging like thunder. "Hope doesn't fix failing systems." Kale leaned closer, whispering, "Neither does denial." Silence gripped the cabin, thicker than smoke. Mara's voice cracked, half command, half prayer. "We survive by truth, or we don't survive at all." The cockpit quaked, a violent lurch throwing tools across the deck. Mara grabbed the console, shouting, "Hull pressure rising." Evan cursed, hammering keys. "We're out of time." Kale stood still, voice cutting through chaos. "The ship is forcing your choice." Mara spun toward him, voice trembling. "What choice?" His calm tone was colder than the void. "Who lives long enough to deliver the truth?" Evan roared, "I won't let you decide that." Sparks rained down, heat scorching gloves. Mara whispered to herself, "Not like this, not again." Her pulse thundered as the ship groaned, each sound a reminder of lives slipping closer to collapse. The alarms screamed, drowning thought, drowning hope. Evan's hands bled from gripping metal, his voice raw. "Systems won't hold." Mara's body shook, her whisper breaking. "We're not ready to die." Kale leaned forward, his voice like a blade. "Death isn't the fear, it's the truth waiting inside it." Mara's throat closed, her mind flashing to her daughter's laugh, a promise she had broken. "I can't let her memory end here," she whispered. Evan met her eyes, his fury bending into desperate resolve. "Then fight, Mara. Fight for her." Kale's pale gaze drifted to the void. "Fight all you want. The stars never lose." The ship shuddered like a coffin cracking open. The silence broke with Kale's voice, low and deliberate. This mission was never about exploration. Mara Chen's blood ran cold, her hands tightening around the restraints. "What are you talking about?" she demanded, her voice sharp. Evan Brooks slammed a console, sparks dancing. "Enough riddles, Kale, answer." Kale's pale eyes glowed under emergency light, unblinking. "We're not charting stars. We're carrying proof, something Earth never wanted us to know." Mara's heart hammered, grief and fury colliding. She whispered, "You knew all along." Kale leaned forward, voice steady. "They sent me to watch you, to make sure the truth never made it home." Evan roared, "You're a spy." His rage filled the air, but Kale's calm was more terrifying than violence. "Not a spy, a safeguard." Mara gasped, a sick realization dawning. "Then who screamed, Kale? Who did you silence?" Kale's voice cut through the alarms. "The scream wasn't from an accident. It was containment. Someone tried to break protocol." Mara's eyes widened, her chest heaving. "You killed him," she said, the words tasting like blood. Kale shook his head slowly. No, I obeyed orders. The agency demanded silence. Evan's fists clenched, his voice thunderous. You're telling me Earth sacrificed one of us for their secrets? Kale's expression didn't falter. It was never your mission. You were pawns. Mara slammed her fist against her seat, the echo hollow. We trusted you. We trusted all of this. The static returned, a faint voice slipping through like a ghost. Mara froze, whispering, "It's him. He's still out there." Kale's gaze darkened. No, Commander. That's the data they wanted hidden. The cockpit air felt poisoned by betrayal. Evan leaned forward, his voice cracking. We trained, we bled for this, and you tell me we're disposable. Kale didn't blink, his calm more violent than shouting. You were chosen for how much you'd endure, not for success. Mara's voice trembled, caught between grief and rage. You let us believe in a lie. She remembered her daughter's smile, the promise she'd made, and her chest clenched. I left her for this, she whispered. Kale's words came like blades. Then she was part of the price. Evan lunged toward him, restrained only by Mara's outstretched arm. She yelled, "Stop! If we fight now, we all die." Her voice broke, but her eyes burned with fire. The transmission flared again, garbled words clawing through static. A voice, broken yet human, whispered, "Help me." Mara's throat closed, every nerve screaming. "It's him," she said, trembling. Evan's face drained of color, his anger breaking into shock. God, he's alive. Kale shook his head, his voice iron. That isn't survival. It's residue. Mara spun toward him, fury ignited. You don't get to decide who's human. Kale's eyes glinted cold. I follow orders. That is survival. The voice on commas crackled again, weaker. Don't trust. The signal collapsed into silence, leaving a weight heavier than death. Mara whispered, "Then, what are we fighting for?" Mara's heart thundered, her mind shattering between duty and betrayal. She whispered, "All this time, we weren't exploring, we were burying truth." Evan's voice was raw, trembling with rage. If Earth abandoned us, then they'll answer when we return. Kale leaned back, unbothered, his tone chilling. You'll never return. That was never the plan. Mara's blood ran cold, her breath sharp in her lungs. Then we make a new plan, she said, fire rekindled in her voice. Evan nodded, jaw set with grim resolve. Kale's silence lingered, a shadow stretching across the cabin. The void outside the window glimmered, endless and indifferent. Mara whispered to herself, for her, for all of us, as the stars stared back like unblinking eyes. The hull trembled like a living thing, alarms shrieking in every corner. Mara Chen clung to her restraints, her voice cracking. If we lose stabilization now, we're dead. Evan Brooks cursed, sweat streaking his temple. I'll reroute power, but it'll drain oxygen. Kale Ilian's calm voice slithered through the chaos. Sacrifice is inevitable. Choose who breathes. Mara's chest constricted, fury boiling over. We are not choosing who dies. Evan slammed controls, sparks flashing, his face twisted with rage. If we don't, the ship chooses for us. The oxygen gauge blinked, dropping fast, every second a hammer strike against their lungs. Mara remembered her daughter's laugh, fragile and fleeting, and whispered, "Not again, not her shadow." Kale leaned forward, voice soft. Your ghosts are already here. The cockpit shook, and for the first time Mara screamed back at the void. The oxygen alarm wailed, a cruel reminder of mortality. Evan barked, I can buy us 10 more minutes, no more. Mara's breathing hitched, her vision blurring. 10 minutes to survive, or 10 minutes to fail. Kale's voice was steady, almost soothing. 10 minutes to decide which one of you carries the truth back. Evan spun, snarling. You smug bastard, you think you decide who lives? Kale's lips curled faintly. I don't have to, the agency already did. Mara's blood boiled, her voice trembling. Then let them choke on their secrets. We make our own choices now. Her fists trembled as she reached for controls, defying the suffocating weight pressing on her chest. Outside, the stars swirled, indifferent, cold witnesses to their unraveling. The ship groaned, a tortured beast on the edge of collapse. Mara snapped, "We need unity or we burn." Evan's voice thundered, raw and broken. "There's no unity with a traitor in this room." Cale's gaze cut sharp, his tone chilling. "I never betrayed you. I betrayed the lie." Mara's hand slammed onto the console, sparks lighting her visor. "You betrayed humanity." Her voice carried the weight of a mother, a commander, a soul breaking under stars. Evan lunged forward, fury in every muscle. Cale didn't flinch, his icy eyes meeting fire with stillness. For a moment, Mara thought the ship itself would split under their hatred. She whispered, trembling, "Stop this or space will finish what betrayal began." The commas blared suddenly, Earth's cold voice slicing through. "Peregrine, shut down transmission. Continue containment." Evan's face twisted, shouting into Mike, "We're dying up here, and you care about containment." Static answered, cold and final. Mara's body shook, rage overpowering grief. "They sent us to die," she said, voice breaking. Cale's lips parted, his voice quiet. "Now you see." Evan turned on him, fists shaking. "You're their executioner." Cale's eyes flashed. "I'm survival's witness." Mara cut between them, her scream rising above alarms. "No. Not their witness, not their victims. We fight back." Her words echoed, shaking walls, cutting through silence deeper than space. The hull cracked, a deep roar vibrating through their bones. Mara's voice surged, fierce and unshaken. "If we fall fighting the silence." Evan met her eyes, his rage burning into resolve. "Then we hold until the void itself breaks." Cale's expression faltered, his calm cracking for the first time, a flicker of doubt in his frozen mask. Mara's hands gripped the console, sparks biting her gloves. She whispered, fierce, "For her. For us." Evan slammed his palm on manual override, alarms screaming louder. Cale whispered, almost inaudibly, "You'll regret defiance." But his voice wavered, hollow. The ship shuddered, a beast between collapse and rebirth, as the crew stood at the edge of survival or oblivion. The ship groaned as if mourning, panels hanging loose, alarms fading to hollow silence. Mara Chen steadied herself, her voice barely a whisper. "We're still breathing, for now." Evan Brooks sagged against the console, exhaustion etched into his features. "We bought time, nothing more." Cale Ilian remained in shadow, gaze fixed coldly on the viewport. "Time is irrelevant. The mission is already dead." Mara's fists tightened, her voice trembling with defiance. "We are not corpses in waiting." The quiet that followed was unbearable, filled only with the hum of dying systems. Evan forced a tired laugh. "If this is survival, it's the cruelest gift." Mara turned toward him, her eyes glistening with grief and resolve. "It's not a gift, it's a burden we carry until it breaks us." Mara floated toward the viewport, staring at the fractured stars beyond. Her voice cracked. "She's waiting for me back home." Evan's tone softened, almost broken. "You'll see her again, Mara. You have to." Cale's words slid in like knives. "Hope doesn't rebuild air filters or mend steel." Mara spun, eyes burning. "Hope keeps me from collapsing." Evan pushed himself upright, gripping controls with trembling hands. "Then hope will carry us through." For the first time, Cale's calm faltered, his jaw tightening as if the words struck deeper than he'd admit. Silence stretched heavy, the ship itself groaning under weight of their truths. Mara whispered to herself, "I'm not leaving her memory in this graveyard." The commas hissed, a faint whisper breaking through. "Peregrine, report." The agency's sterile voice returned, calm and unfeeling. Evan grabbed the mic, his words shaking with fury. "You left us to die." Static answered before the voice replied flatly. And containment, above all. Mara's eyes narrowed, rage sharpening her grief. Containment of what? The truth? Cale turned his gaze away, unwilling to answer. Evan slammed the mic down, sparks jumping. They're not saving us. Mara's voice trembled but held steel. Then they'll never silence us, not while I breathe. For the first time, Cale's hands clenched into fists, his stillness betraying unease. The agency's cold reply cut through again. Silence is survival. The ship shuddered, another panel ripping loose, smoke spilling like breath from the dying beast. Mara staggered, bracing herself against the console. We can't hold her much longer. Evan's voice shook, his strength fading. Then we go down fighting. Cale finally stood, his shadow long under the weak lights. Fighting whom? Space? Or the truth you refuse to face? Mara's gaze snapped to him, eyes burning. We fight for every life they think they can discard. Evan forced a nod, teeth gritted. For every scream they tried to bury. The cockpit trembled, silence growing heavier than sound. Mara whispered, almost to herself. I'll never let her grow up knowing her mother gave up. The alarms dimmed, silence falling heavy, oppressive, final. Mara's breath rasped inside her visor, every inhale sharp with fear and fire. Evan placed a trembling hand on her shoulder. If this is the end, at least it's ours. Mara's throat tightened, her whisper raw. No, it's hers. Every step I take is for her. Cale's gaze lingered on them, his icy calm cracked by something unspoken. He murmured, You'll never make it home. Mara turned toward him, voice rising with steel. Then I'll carve a way through the stars. Evan nodded weakly, a grim smile tugging at his lips. For the first time Cale lowered his eyes, silence betraying doubt. Outside, the void stretched infinite, watching without pity. The cockpit had fallen into a graveyard silence, only the faint hiss of recycled air breaking through. Mara Chen stared out at the abyss, her whisper trembling. This is how eternity looks. Evan Brooks leaned against the cracked console, his voice hoarse. If we send one last transmission, it has to matter. Cale Ilian shifted, shadows cutting his gaunt features. No one's listening. They've already erased you. Mara's jaw tightened, defiance rising. Then, let my voice haunt them. Evan nodded slowly, his face pale but steady. Make them remember. Cale's cold mask faltered, eyes lowering for the first time. The void pressed close, stars burning like distant judgment. Mara pressed record, her hand shaking as she breathed. For her, for all of us. Mara's voice cut into the void, low and steady. If anyone hears this, we were not explorers. We were prisoners of a lie. Evan's eyes shone, his whisper fierce. Tell them the truth. Cale turned sharply, his calm unraveling. You'll doom millions if you speak it aloud. Mara glared at him, voice unwavering. Silence is the real doom. The commas crackled, recording every word. Evan raised his chin, voice breaking. This is for every voice they buried. Cale sank back into shadows, lips pressed thin. Mara's hand clenched tighter, her whisper more intimate. And for one little girl who deserves to know her mother, fought until the last breath. The stars outside flickered, endless, cold witnesses to rebellion. The ship moaned under strain, panels rattling, lights sputtering like dying stars. Mara's words carried into the abyss. We were betrayed by those who sent us. Remember us not as victims but as warnings. Evan reached for her arm, his voice breaking. They can't bury us now. Cale's eyes glistened with something unspoken, his lips parting. They'll hunt the truth, they'll burn it. Mara turned to him, her stare unrelenting. Then, let them choke on ashes. Silence gripped them, heavy and infinite. Evan whispered, Your daughter will know you fought for her. Mara's throat tightened, tears fogging her visor. She pressed her hand to her chest. She'll know I never gave up. A low rumble shook the hull, the void outside shifting like a living shadow. Evan's voice strained. She won't hold much longer. Mara pressed transmit, her final words breaking through static. To Earth, your silence will not outlive us. Kale's voice cut in, softer than before. You've sealed your fate, Commander. Mara turned, her face alight with fire. Better to burn with truth than suffocate with lies. Evan's laugh was weak but real. Hell of a way to go. The transmission light flickered, sending their words across endless darkness. The ship creaked like a coffin splitting open, and Mara whispered, "We're not ghosts. We are the storm." The ship's frame screamed, then silence. Absolute, eternal. Mara's final breath trembled as she whispered, "For her." Evan closed his eyes, a faint smile frozen on his lips. "For all of us," he echoed. Kale's gaze drifted to the stars, his voice hollow. The void remembers. Outside, the transmission pulsed, carrying their voices into infinity, a ghostly beacon. Earth would hear it, or bury it, but it would not die. Mara's daughter's laughter echoed in her memory, bright against the endless dark. The stars shimmered, eternal witnesses. Their story became starlight, unbroken, unstoppable. The final silence was not an end, but an echo carved into eternity.